I was complaining about being pregnant, and that's salt in the wound for somebody that really wanted a baby. Like, not only did I lose a baby, but then I couldn't get pregnant on my own either. So just for her to consider that, and then she talked to me about her own loss and asked me my baby's name. And so then when I was going into the second part of recovery, she called ahead and told the next nurse, like, she lost a baby and she's pretty sad about it, and her name was Ruby, and like she went this extra mile to refer to my baby by name, which just to hear her name spoken is so precious to me. Like, it's cool, like God allows me to see her name on things all the time, like just random things. Like we went to Knott's Berry Farm and my daughter was doing a crossword puzzle, and Ruby was in the letters that were just randomly in the, and it wasn't one of the words in the word find, it was just there. Or like a toy that they see at the store, or just things, you know, just every day I see something. Or like a friend will text me a picture that they saw with her name. And so there's a lot of things that I didn't realize would be hard until I had to face them, like going to the ultrasound afterwards and seeing that big empty hole in my body where my baby used to be, because the screen is just black, and you know that that's where my baby was, and now she's gone. I didn't realize that when I thought about my baby being born. I never imagined it would be while I was alone in the bathroom on the toilet. I didn't imagine how hard it would be to look into that toilet bowl and wonder if I wanted to pull her body out or flush it. I had nightmares for a really long time, because the whole physical process for me took a couple weeks to deliver her body. And then I was dreaming I would sit in like a bathtub with blood clots, like digging, looking for my baby, just wondering, because for a long time I just didn't know, like, do I want to hold her? This is the only chance I'll ever have. Do I want to be spared of that thought in my mind of what her body looked like? And so ultimately God decided for me. So when my body delivered the baby, it sank underneath where I couldn't reach it even if I wanted to. And so I thought, well, that was God's decision for me, that I wasn't meant to hold her. But those are things that you never realize until you have to face it, like how hard it is. And even my own husband at times would compare our loss to other people, and that hurts so much, because he said, well, so-and-so's baby was a little bit older and they had to see it. And I thought, I would have given anything to hold and see my baby. You know, like for him, it was too final to be able to see a body. Like, he didn't see the toilet full of blood, and he didn't sit there and think, well, what kind of mom flushes their baby? Like, he didn't have any of those things. He was completely shielded from that. So for him, seeing a body would have been difficult. But for me, I was like, that was the only chance I'll ever have to hold her. So I would have loved to have that opportunity. So I guess my point with that is, like, if you haven't experienced loss, or even if you have, like, your baby matters to you, regardless of whether you were pregnant for 5 minutes or you deliver a full-term baby. Like, you love that baby and you had hopes and dreams for that baby, and just the same as the mom who was further along, or her story was more tragic, or the baby was disabled, or whatever the story may be. Like, my loss is no different than anyone else's. I mean, for some people the circumstances may be more traumatic than for others, but for the mom that's living it, it's all traumatic. I didn't realize it would be hard to go to certain places, like, hey, the last time I was here I was pregnant and now I'm not. Or even things like taking ibuprofen, like, oh, I can take ibuprofen now because I'm not pregnant anymore. Or getting the mail, like, once you find out you're pregnant, I'm like, who told the Gerber to send me formula in 6 months? You know, like going to check the mail and getting formula for a baby that you never had, or like diaper samples and things like that. And so I had a really good support system. I had some friends that, you know, you get those baby updates, and like, oh, this week your baby will be 16 weeks. I'm like, thanks for the reminder that I'm not pregnant, you know, and this is how far along my baby would be. So one of my good friends went in my email and went and unsubscribed to a lot of things, but also created a folder for anything from any of those senders that where it just immediately went in there and I never had to look at it again. I'd never actually checked that email since. I'm like, I just can't do it. And then it was hard because you deal with things like, for me, I dealt with being jealous of other women, and not that I wanted them to lose their babies. I wouldn't have wished that pain on anyone, but you see, like, certain women whose baby are as old as yours should have been, and it's hard. I had a couple good friends, and they honestly don't even know that it bothered me because I didn't have the heart to tell them, but for a long time I had to, like, unfollow them on Facebook because their pregnancy updates or their baby showers and stuff just stung, because I thought, well, that's maybe my belly would look like that now, or you know, would I have had a baby shower? Even after I got pregnant with Coraline, who's our youngest now, One of our friends that was due right around the same time I would have been, her baby had laughed for the first time, and I just thought, well, would Ruby have been laughing at this point, or would she have learned how to roll over? And so it was just hard, and I didn't realize how much I would be angry about certain things. Like a friend was complaining about morning sickness, and I just thought I would give anything to be throwing up right now because I was pregnant. And when you've never experienced that, you don't realize it's difficult to be throwing up every day. I mean, nobody enjoys it, but you don't realize that just complaining about those sort of things can be salt in the wound for somebody else that's, mourning and would love to be in your shoes. I didn't realize that once I became pregnant with Corlin, I would struggle with feeling guilty. That was a really bad year. We learned that our daughter was being abused at school, and then I had a really bad falling out with my dad, and then I miscarried and couldn't get pregnant again, and then I had an accident and broke my back and all my ribs. I was in the hospital for a long time, and so that was like the worst year in the whole wide world. And then and my accident was in December, and then in February I got pregnant with Corlin. So people were like, well, that's weird. I'm like, well, use your imagination. But I still wanted a baby, okay, people? I was asking them while I was in the hospital in a body brace, like, can you cut out the middle if I get pregnant? Like, how will this work for my belly? And they're like, I don't really need to worry about that right now. I'm like, I'm just letting you know I am worrying about it right now. Like, it is on my agenda. And they're just like, you've got to be crazy. I'm like, no, I need it. It's not because of medicine. So when I got pregnant with her, I never realized how hard and how scary it would be. And I had all these milestones in my mind, like I lost Ruby at 7 weeks, and I thought, well, if I can get to 8 weeks, then I'll be okay, and I wasn't. And then I thought, well, if I can get to 20 weeks, because I'll be halfway there, I'll be okay, and I wasn't. And then if I get to the point where she's born and viable, even if she's a preemie, then I'll be okay, and I wasn't. And I thought, okay, well, if she's born and doesn't have to go to the NICU, then I'll be okay, and I wasn't. And so I'd set up all these walls that I thought I just need to overcome these things before, and it wasn't until like the day that she was born that I finally felt like, okay, I can let that wall down, like I really am having a baby. And I asked to be induced with her because I felt like that was the only bit of control I had over any of the situation. And initially my doctor had told me no, which was hard because I thought, well, I don't want just anyone to deliver me, and I want to know when it's going to happen, and I just needed to have a plan. And then finally at the end, it was like 2 days before my due date, she's like, yeah, okay, I'll induce you. And then I called that morning and they didn't have room for me. I've waited so long for this baby, and now you don't have room for me. And I had a little bit of a meltdown. They call at 5 a.m. and I'm like, I'm at 5 a.m. for nothing. And then, they tell you you can't eat, and I'm like, well, I'm eating something then, because, and then later they called me and told me I could eat, and I'm like, well, who gave me the stupid paper that said I couldn't eat anything since yesterday? Well, good thing, because I already did. I really did think that. They're like, they're going to know when I throw up, and it's tricks. It's very colorful. Yeah, I really did think all these things. And so then they said, well, call back in 2 hours and we'll let you know if there's room. And so I called at 8 o'clock, and then they said, there's no room, we'll call you. And I'm like, yeah, right, they're never going to call me. And then I had just been praying for peace, and then somehow God allowed me to just take a nap. I'm like, thank you, Lord, because I was all worked up, and then I woke up from a nap. And it was only about an hour and a half later to them calling saying, okay, you can come in. And I literally fell over on my bed and bawled. Probably the hardest I've cried in a really long time, just to think, okay, I finally get to have this baby. And when I was in labor with her, they asked, have you had any anxiety during your pregnancy? I'm like, do you really want to know? How much can you handle? Because I'll tell you, but, sometimes that's not it. I don't want to know all that. But just worrying that, anytime you go to the bathroom, you're wiping and checking for blood. It's what if this is it? And with Corlin, at 12 weeks, they do a scan, and I agreed to it just because I wanted to see my baby. I don't really care what the test says. I really just want an ultrasound, and my insurance paid for it, so might as well. And then that day, my doctor said, well, you're in the clear, you're past the scary part. And then that night, I was standing up in the kitchen doing dishes, and I felt a gush, and it soaked through my pants immediately. I thought I wet my pants, and I went to the bathroom, and it was blood. So I'm like, here we go again. And with Ruby, I remember, even though I was heartbroken, I had peace about it. Lord, I trust you, whatever you're giving me. With Corlin, I was like, we are not doing this again. I cannot handle it again, Lord. I'm not letting you have this baby. And God's obviously in control, and he'll do what he wants. But I wasn't as willing to give up that baby too. And thankfully she was okay. But in the emergency room that day, the doctor just came in and was like, well, yeah, sometimes people miscarry, and is giving me all these statistics. Like, it's different when the statistic doesn't include your children. Like, sure, 1 in 4 people, lose a baby. How many people's parents have died today in the hospital? Like, people's parents die all the time and they're sad. So, excuse me, mister, but could care less. Like, no, it's important to me and it's heartbreaking. And thankfully he was wrong. He didn't even know what was going on. It's like, I don't know, but you're probably gonna lose your baby. Have a good day. And he was wrong. It was just, I had injured myself vacuuming, so don't vacuum if you're pregnant. Seriously. All of that just trying to clean the house. Like, I didn't even really want to vacuum that much, so no problem. But there was a lot of things along the way that blessed my heart. And I mean, even though I have experienced a miscarriage, I don't even know how to approach the topic with other women. Like, for me, I feel comforted talking about it because it is proof that my baby existed. Sometimes I feel like when you're grieving a baby that nobody ever saw, it's like you're just sad over an imaginary friend, and people think, like, why aren't you over it? But, I still, like, I don't know if I should ask this person how they're doing, or if they want anyone to acknowledge it. And so I don't know where Nikki is, but I made up a little handout, and it's not like cut and dry. Like, each woman in each situation is unique, but it's a list of things to say or not say. I had some super hurtful things said to me along the way. Like, the worst was someone said, well, maybe God knew that you couldn't handle another baby. And that was my biggest fear of why my husband didn't want to have a baby with me in the first place. Was like, maybe if I could just be a better woman, a better mom, more grounded in Christ, a better servant, then God would allow me to have this baby. And so when she said, well, maybe God knew that you couldn't handle it, like, how heartless. Like, yeah, you suck at life, so God took your baby. Like, thanks so much. But then there was things like, one of my friends was pregnant, and for some reason hers didn't bother me, and I still haven't been able to figure out why, but it just didn't. But she was so gracious to me. Like, when she found out that her baby was a girl, she told me, like, I just wanted to tell you before I told everyone that our baby is a girl, because I wasn't sure if it would be hard for you to know that I was having a little girl when you think of your baby as a little girl. And I just thought how sweet for her to even consider that that might be upsetting to me. And she, when she was having her baby shower, she said, I wanted to invite you to my baby shower, but I wasn't sure if it would hurt you if I sent you an invitation, and so I just wanted to ask you how you feel about that. And just, hers didn't bother me. For whatever reason, I didn't make it, but it wasn't on purpose. I mean, obviously I didn't make it, but it wasn't because I was avoiding her. But just to even consider that that would be something that was difficult for me meant so much, because I felt like so many people didn't even acknowledge that I was still hurting, or they think, oh, you're pregnant again, why are you still sad? Barbara over here, I love you.
I love you.
She came over with a pizza one night, and she said, I got you a little gift, and it was a little paper, and it had a little picture of a star on it, and she's like, I named the star after Ruby. And it was just a thoughtful gift to think, like, every time I look up at the heavens, there's a star up there that has my baby's name on it. And I look forward to the day when I sit up in heaven and Ruby says, Mom, look, there's my star. And just little things that people do to acknowledge that, like, hey, I don't know what this feels like for you, but I love you and I care that it hurts your heart, and I don't know what you need. I don't know how to help you. I don't know whether you even want to talk about it or not, but if you do, I'm here for you. And sometimes you don't know even what to say. Sometimes you just feel dumbfounded, and it's okay to just hug them and say, I don't know what to say, but I love you. And on the paper, I included the story from Job, where Job had faced all of his hardships, and his friends came to be with him, and then they just looked at him like, wow, Job, you're a train wreck. And instead of saying anything or trying to comfort him or smooth over the pain that he was having, they just sat with him in the dirt. Like, they met him right where he was at until he was okay. And sometimes we need to be that friend to people that are hurting. Like, just sit with them. Like, one of the most meaningful moments when I was in bed still physically going through my miscarriage was a friend from church. Church starts at 6 at night, and at 6:05 I heard somebody downstairs in my house, and I knew my family was gone, and it was my friend, and she just climbed up in bed with me and hugged me and let me talk, and whether it was about my baby or just whatever I was thinking about, she just was there, and she didn't try and fix me or gloss over it or think, why are you still in bed being sad? Like, she just sat with me in my dirt, and there are times where for me personally, it was hard because like my family didn't acknowledge that I'd even lost a baby. They couldn't understand why I wasn't going to the family picnic. I'm like, I'm bleeding all over myself. I'm not going anywhere. And they never even just said, I'm sorry that you're sad. They have never acknowledged